Swords collide during intense combat. A swordsman and a shieldman are revealed to be defending themselves from half a dozen goblins. A hooded man is behind these hunters as he watches his companions on full alert of the attack. The hooded man reveals his face as that of a young man. The battlefield explodes as more goblins arrive. The hunters ask the man with a hood to help them out and call him a necromancer. The necromancer agrees to do his part. With his magic staff with a skull on its tip, Don the necromancer activates his magic. He commands his minions to come out. 3 undead skeletons appear. They clash weapons with the goblins. The other hunters recognize the position of necromancer as the highest authority and marvel at how rare it is to see one in an E-rank dungeon. Don is all ears to their praises for him. However, he looks more down than flattered. He reports to the audience on how necromancers like him are rare in their world. His first skeleton minion is B1, and he is a swordsman. The second is B2, the spearman. The third is B3, the archer. Don thinks he is unworthy to be called a necromancer. He overhears the hunters wondering why he is only summoning basic skeletons and talking about how jealous they are of him for having the luxury of holding back his power. However, he knows that he has the title of Cursed Necromancer and that he is only in rank E. The man grinds his teeth. His notification window tells him that as a Cursed Necromancer, he can only summon skeletons. He is in tears as he thinks about how he is the one who is jealous of them. He reported that 10 years ago, humans began to receive unique abilities the moment they turned 20 years old. This world is shown to be a modern one despite its access to magic. Authorities can vary from blacksmithing to healing. Since authorities are randomly given, not all are happy with the abilities handed to them. Thanks to these abilities, humanity was able to survive the invasion of monsters. Meanwhile, the skeletons became victorious against the army of goblins. The hunters cheer aside from Don. His sadness that he is likely to be an E-rank necromancer for the rest of his life makes him care less about his victory. Don returns to the guild to tell the guild leader, Junso, that he is done with his mission. The guild leader is glad to see him return. With business finished, Don asks to leave. Junso bids him farewell. Don is walking down the street. He complains about his bad luck. He remembers his summon's performance during the mission and tries to see the bright side that no one is expecting big things from him. He sees from his phone that he received the patent from the mission, but is disappointed that his profit from it is low. He thinks about how he would have higher pay if he were in a part-time job instead. He knows he will never quit despite the low pay since he likes the job too much. He gets stopped as he hears the voice saying, "There is good news." He looks up to see that a news update is being broadcast through a building's LED monitor, and it just announced that the necromancer named Dark Lord has just reached S rank and is now considered among the 437 rankers of South Korea. It continues that Dark Lord is also the first hunter to become a ranker in 3 years, excluded from the original hunters. Don is shocked at the news. He grinds his teeth. He remembers that Dark Lord received his necromancer authority the same day as he did. He hates that he is cursed to summon only skeletons when the other like him is already a ranker. It makes him so mad. Later he goes to the forest. He goes to a training site there with wooden scarecrows for target practice and wipes his sweat. As he looks at the target practice wooden dummies, he tells himself that he will not just accept reality and do nothing about it. He activates his summoning spell. His 3 skeletons appear. He remembers how he was surprised to learn that he can name his skeletons and how happy he was that he was the only necromancer who could do so. It pains him to know that he was so naive. He tells his skeletons to warm up for training. They stretch their tendons like their master ordered. He roll calls his minions. He orders them to start their training. He sits down while he observes his minions train their weapons with the wooden scarecrows. He says training is his way to improve. He recalls how he used to see good results from training. He remembers their performance with the goblins and how they are now able to handle 3 of them at once because of it. He is disappointed because he knows that that is all his skeletons will ever achieve. He complains about how bad he has it. However, he acknowledges that there is nothing he can do about it. He takes comfort that he at least has a dream, even if it can never be fulfilled. A beast is in the shadows stalking him. Don gets alerted by its sound. His eyes widen by the shock. The monster steps out of the shadows. Its face is large and its mouth has large fangs. He is intimidated to see an orc. He wonders where it came from. His minions get so scared of it that the notification window announces that their stats are reduced to 20%. Don calls them useless. The orc roars at him. He realizes that it must have come from a dungeon nearby and managed to leak out of it due to a phenomenon known as dungeon break. The orc raises its axe on him. Don fears that he is about to die. He orders his minions to block its attack. B1 blocks its axe with its sword. The orc stands its ground. It overpowers B1, sending him backward to hit B2. Don feels helpless as he sees B1 and B2 become unsummoned. He runs from the monster, yet it still chases after him. An arrow heads towards the orc. It hits it on the head, but it merely bounces off it. B3 is already reloading its second arrow. Don hides by a tree and thinks about how he only has enough energy to summon 7 more times. He consumes energy to summon B1 and B2 again. He orders B1 and B2 to attack the orc directly, while B3 keeps its distance and fires arrows. The orc overpowers B1 with one axe swing. Dawn runs. The orc then destroys B2. The fight continues for hours. Dawn is already out of breath. The orc awaits his next attack. Dawn consumes the last of his energy. His teeth are grinding. His fist grips tightly. His skeletons are summoned for the last time. The orc roars. Dawn thinks that this might be the end. A gold notification window suddenly appears before him to notify him that he has an achievement message. The man is shocked to see it. He eyes the contents of the message. It reports to him that he has just achieved the hidden condition of summoning skeletons 10,000 times. Golden energy fills his body. A message then says that he has achieved D rank. Dawn desperately orders his window to show him whatever is new. As the orc dashes forward to him, the window tells him that his energy has been refilled. His skeleton also gets filled up with the same golden energy. B1 winds up his sword. His sword swing becomes more powerful as the orc blocks it. Dawn then activates his new D-rank summon skill. 2 more skeletons appear on the battlefield. B4 has a shield. The other B5 has a magic staff with a purple gem as its tip. Dawn is happy to see that he now has a tank and a mage in his army. Meanwhile, B1 and B2 are on the offensive against the orc. B4 readies his shield. He rushes towards the orc. The orc sees him coming. The monster smiles in the heat of battle. B4 rams his shield on the monster's axe. The axe gets tossed away from the monster. The orc is shocked. He then realizes that a giant fireball is above it and is about to fall on it. It is B5 who has summoned it. While the orc is on fire, B2 stabs it in the neck. The monster falls. The notification window announces that Dawn has defeated the monster. The man is shocked by his victory. He looks on at the corpse of the enemy and sees that it is real. He makes a big grin and is now confident that things will be better from now on. Dawn is eating instant noodles in his home. As he eats, he inspects his notification window and does not believe how much his abilities have evolved. He thinks about his next step. He remembers his skeletons defeating the orc and wonders about his potential. He welcomes the possibility of reaching rank C. He thinks about starting over and wonders what will happen if his minions get stronger. He imagines B5 is a spammer of blizzard storms, while B1 and B2 are a master swordsman and a spearman, respectively. It makes him hyped for more training. Dawn arrives at the guild. He sees some hunters conversing about some kind of dangerous job and wonders what is going on. He sees one of them have a green badge of a rank C on his person and wonders why he is in a weak guild like theirs. Junso sees Dawn and calls him. He tells him that he has big news. He asks if he knows of the Parang Guild. Dawn thinks his question is obvious since the Parang Guild is a prestigious household name guild established by the Korean ranker Parang, the Fine Bow. Junso tells him that the Parang Guild is going to explore a dungeon, is looking for porters to accompany them, and is willing to pay good money for it. He is so excited he makes a 10 sign with his fingers and tells him that they are paying 10 times the normal amount. Dawn's jaw drops. Junso continues to say that they are accepting E rank, making Dawn think about it. It makes him agree to the job. Junso shows him the map to show him that the newly discovered dungeon is near Paju. The guild leader also tells him that 5 teams have already failed to clear it, making Dawn nervous. He reports that the rank of the dungeon is undetermined. Junso, however, assures him that Parang would be in a different league than the amateurs who explored the dungeon before. He can't see anything happening to Dawn. He believes that all the man needs to do is work the part for easy money. Dawn thinks deeply about it. He ponders that the 10-fold reward must be because of the danger involved. He remembers how the orc attacked him and how he has not yet mentally recovered from it. He looks at the mission paper in Junso's hand and is tempted to take it. He remembers Dark Lord in the broadcast yesterday advising everyone to go to a dungeon above their level in order to upgrade their rank fast. The Star Necromancer also added that the higher the risk, the more likely the opportunities and rewards. Remembering his words makes Dawn take the mission paper. Junso tells him that he should leave a week later from Paju Station. Dawn signs the paper. As he hands the paper back, he asks Junso for a week off to get ready. The guild leader permits it and even promises to treat him to a meal when he comes back. Later, Dawn summons his skeletons for training. He is tearing up as he can tell that they have become stronger. He expects that they will even grow stronger in the future. He orders them to take their training positions. He then orders them to begin. B1 slices one wooden scarecrow clean in two. 2 spear strike pierces a hole through his scarecrow. Meanwhile, B3 fires an arrow. The throw is so powerful that the arrow pierces through 3 trees in a row. Dawn is shocked at how powerful they have become. He remembers how they defeated the orc and did not know they had power to spare back then. He sees the broken wooden scarecrows and thinks of a way to continue their training. He cries for the money he has to spend replacing the training gear. He is, however, proud of his minions' growth. His concern now is that he is not as strong as his minions. He imagines a monster chasing after him and is helpless against it. In this scenario, he sees himself as the weakness of their pact. Something approaches Dawn. It is B5, and he is moving his jaw as if he is trying to say something. His magic staff glows. He is pointing it at Dawn, startling the man. He then realizes he gets covered by an invisible force field. He wonders if B5 somehow read his mind. He realizes he has answered his thought. He now sees that his minions have gained their own opinions. He is glad to see that B5 has more abilities than just casting fireballs. B4 stomps the ground with his shield. He successfully gets his master's attention. The skeleton is moving his jaw. He then points at the broken scarecrows. Dawn is confused about what he is trying to say. B4 continues his defensive shield stance. He blocks B1's sword strike. Multiple arrows then head in B4's direction. All of them get blocked by his shield. B4 looks untouchable. Dawn is impressed by his defense. The other minions continue to attack B4, making Dawn realize that he won't need any training equipment anymore. He asks B2 to try and attack him. B5 casts an air shield over his master. The spearman minion strikes, but his attack is blocked by the invincible force field. Dawn gets shaken but smiles that he now has a new defense strategy. He congratulates every skeleton and lets them keep practicing. B1 tries to hit his master while his air shield is activated. One continues striking for his shield. Dawn sees that everything is going well. His notification tells him that his minion's strength all increased by 1 point. It then announces that he has unlocked the status window for the summons because of the achievement. The status window of B1 shows all the points the skeleton has achieved so far. Dawn wonders if he can also see the status of the others. Pressing it shows all the status of his skeletons. He sees that those who came first have more points than the others due to more experience in training. It makes him feel that all of his efforts have not been in vain. His goal now is to raise their stats comprehensively. He looks at his army with pride. His goal is for them to become the world's strongest skeletons. Days later, Dawn goes to the meeting site of the mission. He removes his travel bag from his back. He checks that he has packed a sleeping bag and enough food. He sees the crowd of hunters and reminds himself that he is just a porter. He hypes himself up that he can do this. Someone announces that all participating hunters should head towards him and wait in front of the dungeon. Dawn looks at the portal to the dungeon and can see its ominous dark energy radiating from it. He thinks that the portal makes it look like its content is an average dungeon that was produced naturally. The people gathered are getting nervous about the mission. The color around the vortex hole is so thick that it makes them think that this dungeon is hard to conquer. These hunters remind themselves that they are safe since they are with Paran. Dawn questions their logic. He grinds his teeth at the nonsense. He recalls the many dungeons in the world that made missing victims of countless hunters. He believes that since rankers are always in the spotlight, many do not realize how many deaths remain nameless. Dawn grips his staff. He hypes himself up to go in and put his life on the line. He does not realize that a woman is behind him. She calls for him, so the confused man turns around. However, the woman disappears. Yet the voice continues to talk, and it tells of her fascination for the man for having the presence of a D rank. She sees his E rank plate on his belt and wonders. The disembodied voice asks who he is. Dawn asks nervously who she is. The voice tells him that she has asked first, and she demands to know why he has hidden his D rank ability from Parang and decided to participate as a porter. Dawn thinks this is all a misunderstanding. He wonders what difference it makes to her if he is a D or an E. His scared expression makes the woman more suspicious of him, and she accuses him of being a spy. She warns him not to take Parang's intelligence lightly and tells him that she believes he is a spy from another guild. The woman shows herself, and she gives off a presence of strength. Dawn is shocked to hear her accusation. He sees that she has a golden plate that tells him she is an S rank. He realizes that she is the first rank among South Korea's 37 rankers, known as Soy the Dark Empress. He fears that he has just made an enemy of someone he should never anger. She is frozen stiff by her presence. At the same time, he feels blessed that he can talk to her. He tries to tell her that it is only a misunderstanding. He tries to convince her that he is not a spy from another guild. Soya still looks suspicious of him. She laughs. Suddenly, her mood turns cheerful, and she tells him that she is just kidding. Dawn suddenly feels confused. With her playful side revealed, Soya looks so innocent now. All eyes are on her because of her reputation. Still, Dawn is afraid of her. He wonders if she did a background check on him. Soya can tell that he is still nervous around her. She asks if she made him fluster. She apologizes for the prank and admits it was rude. She said she did it because she was interested in why a porter with an E rank badge would have a skill to house 5 D rank energies within him. He finds relief that she was not serious. He then realizes the odd part of what she just said. He realizes that she grasped his skills with energy detection. Soya smiles. She tells him that his brother asked her to join the second team's expedition as a scout and that she was looking for a porter. Then she just happened to see him. She goes closer to him. She asks if he wants to volunteer and warns him that it will be dangerous. She says she trusts he would do a good job since he is the most capable among the porters and does not look like someone who would run away. Her suspicious look still makes the guy nervous. She grabs him by the shoulder. Then she tells him that she will double his reward if he comes. He reviews that he has an opportunity to get into an expedition with a ranker with double the reward. He instantly raises his hand and agrees to do it. He thinks about how he can't put down this kind of opportunity. He reviews that dungeons are ranked from the lowest E to the highest S. It is a ranking with no exclusive system, so humanity needed a subjective rank to quantify it. The S-rank ranker, White Shadow, once said that the only way to know is to go in a dungeon and assess for themselves. His one tip is to check how dark the color of the dungeon vortex is, since the darker it is, the likelier that it is a high-level dungeon to clear. However, even his method is not accurate, forcing the association to set a standard. If a dungeon can't be cleared with 5 or more hunters of the same rank, then the rank would be increased. If 5 or more A-ranked hunters participated and it still can't be cleared, then it becomes an S-ranked dungeon. Unfortunately, this method required the sacrifice of countless hunter lives. Dawn worries that they are the lives to be sacrificed this time around. He touches the dungeon vortex. He is very careful just before he enters. He walks into the vortex. He sees that he ended up in a cave. There are orbs of light everywhere he calls luminescent pearls. The others enter after him. Dawn sees that everyone is just conversing and is too relaxed. He sees that it is because everyone aside from Soyu has an A-rank badge. Soyu warns the team not to get too relaxed and to prepare for anything. They start their exploring. Soyu then calls for the guide, Wook. The man asks what her order is. She asks him to look for an exit while covering for Dawn. Wook says he has confidence in his title as a guide, so he knows he can do what she asks. Dawn explains that a guide is what hunters call those who specialize in finding their way around a dungeon. Soyu orders them to begin their walk. Wook asks Dawn if he is nervous, and the man says he is. The guide says that it is the right feeling to have. This surprises Dawn. The guide says it is because the dungeon is suspicious. He advises him to always listen to the gut feeling of a ranker like Soyu. As of now, he can tell that the dungeon is strangely quiet, leaving him with a high chance of no monster encounter. He continues that creatures that live in caves like this should have light ringing or sound and vibrations, but there are none now. His guess is that the danger of this dungeon is not monsters, but something unique. Dawn is impressed by his keen observation. The guide points to one of the paths and tells him that they will go that way to find the exit. Dawn sees that their path will be different from the others, but determines it will be okay. The duo walks their own way. Dawn is getting anxious. Wook is the same since he sees no traps or even hints of them so far. He asks Dawn if his body is getting heavy like his. He answers that he is getting cold and worries about the danger. The guide is not sure about their path either and admits that the intense pressure he is feeling right now is a first for him. He also admits that he feels more scared right now than facing a ranker, making Dawn even more scared. Wook says that there is a presence of someone powerful in where they are heading and asks that he summon something to get ready. His warning makes the situation feel real for the young man. He grips his magic staff to get ready. Dawn summons his squad of skeletons. He gets tired, as simply materializing expends half of his energy. Wook asks why he summoned only regular skeletons at a time like this. The young man reluctantly tells him that they are all he has. An intense pressure suddenly makes its presence felt on their bodies. All of them, including the skeletons, feel like they are under heavy gravity. Wook tells Dawn to keep walking since there is an opening up ahead. He says he senses the presence of beings there, so it might be a safe place. He says he does not know if they are people or monsters, but thinks it is their only choice to go to right now. As they walk forward, the weight on their bodies does not stop. Dawn can't even open his eyes and mouth because of the pressure. Simply walking is a chore. B5 uses an air shield on his master. His magic is rejected, making him fall to the ground. Dawn is starting to get internal damage. He calls for one of his skeletons. He is now so weak that he needs assistance from his minions to stand and move. He sees that Wook is already running fast away. He ponders how a dungeon that can even make high-level rankers tense exists so suddenly. All he can think of is surviving to attain his dream of being a ranker. He continues his walk with his minions. They pass through an invincible force field. The notification says that Dawn has reached the stage of an elderly man with white hair filled with deep resentment. He wonders what that name means. He sees that a gate in front of him has a graphic that says that they are indeed in the stage of an elderly man with white hair filled with deep resentment. It also warns that his resentment is so deep that icy frost forms on his hair. The mission says that he needs to enter the room to defeat the old man. Dawn theorizes that the old man must be the boss of the dungeon. He then hears the voice. It turns out a trio of people are also in the area, and they are glad to see Dawn and Wook, hoping that they are a rescue team. Dawn realizes they are a group of hunters who also try to avoid the pressure. The trio sees Wook's purple badge of A rank. They also see the skeletons of a necromancer, giving them hope that they are indeed a rescue team. They plead with them to be taken out of the dungeon. Wook tells Dawn to give them water and food. Dawn follows him and takes off his supply bag, but is still angry that Wook ran away without him earlier. As he picks out food and water, he tries to forget about it. The survivors drink and eat as fast as they can. Dawn and Wook watch while they eat. The young man imagines that he could end up like them if he makes one bad mistake. Wook advises the survivors to eat slowly. He asks them to explain what happened to them. One of them says he will speak for his team. He shows his B rank badge to show that he is the highest ranking among his group. He elaborates that his group has never encountered a dungeon like this. He explains that they can't find any exits anywhere. No matter which direction they go, the dungeon brings them to the door of the boss, and no matter what, they could not leave the door. They had no choice but to challenge the boss over and over again. However, the clear condition is impossible to achieve. He continues that the old man is impossible to beat. Even if one is a B rank, there is no chance to beat him. The survivor's hope rises now that he sees an A ranker in front of him. All survivors are counting on Wook. Don gets confused. He asks the survivors how they are still alive if they always get defeated by the boss. The leader of the survivors says it is a good question. He explains that the old man does not kill people and only accepts challenges. While the person is in his room, the old man will conduct a test. They do not understand the details, only that he painfully subdued them. After the defeat, the old man clicked his tongue. He then said, "This one's not fit." Then he threw them back out. Don looks at the doorway to the boss with curiosity. The survivors think the old man is weird. They say that this is the first time they ever encountered a person and not a monster as a dungeon boss. Don is shocked that this is possible. Don worries that there is no other choice but to open the door and complete the mission to survive. He looks at Wook, thinking that he does not trust him, but still feels like he has no choice because of his guide skills. He feels trapped with no choices available. Suddenly, Soyu and her team reach their area, wondering what is going on. Soyu hears everything she needs to know and thinks about their options. She looks at the doorway, determined to open it and take the challenge right away, even if the aura around it is intense. Her face shows confidence that she can beat it. The survivors cheer and cry that they are about to be saved with a ranker and 2 A ranks on their side. Soyu and her A rank team march towards the door, while Don and the survivors watch. Don feels confident they can do it now that Soyu is on the case. The ranker ties up her hair. As her hand is on the doorknob, she tells her men to get ready for the other side. She slowly pulls the knob. The group enters into the darkness. Don waits. Then he feels shocked at what he sees. The A ranks accompanying Soya before got thrown back through the door with bruises all over their bodies. A second later, even Soya gets thrown out with bruises. The throw is so strong that she gets slammed into a rock wall. Slowly, the door slams shut. Don is flabbergasted. He looks at the hunters trying to get back up and thinks that it has only been 10 minutes since they went in. He can't believe that even an S rank like Soya got incapacitated so quickly. Soya feels frustrated that the old man said she was not fit. She shouts at Don. She demands that he hand her an advanced level potion from the bag. He looks at her determined eyes and knows that she will not give up. She says that she is sure. Don hands the potion to her. She declares that she will let the old man know that she is truly fit. Don realizes that fit is usually the word used by a master when he is searching for a disciple. He wonders if the old man's resentment comes from how he never found a suitable successor. Meanwhile, Soya is drinking the potion. She throws it as she walks towards the door. A few minutes later, she gets thrown out again. Then again, then again, then again. It only infuriates Soya. She complains about how the old man has such impossible standards. Still, she readies herself to go back. Don looks at her with frustrated pointlessness. After a day, Don already looks depleted from waiting. For 4 days straight, Soya never backed down from the challenge. She is tired, but is also still determined with rage. She points at the door and complains about how impossible the challenge is. Don worries that even if her brother Parang were here, nothing would change. He has a feeling that not even 5 rankers can defeat the old man. Soya says she admits that the old man is strong. However, she swears that she will keep challenging him as long as she is alive. Don is in awe of her ranker mindset. He still stands up, seeing that something needs to change. He sees that the survivors look out of hope. He admits that he is getting frustrated too. He holds his magic staff, determined to do something. He looks at everyone and realizes he is the only one who never went in the door. He stands ready to take his turn. He approaches Soyu. She asks what he wants. He voices that he wants to try the challenge himself. Soyu is surprised. Soyu's samurai hunter companion is insulted that he wants to try a challenge that even a ranker failed. The samurai demands that he act in his place. He readies to draw out his sword. Don sweats. Soyu tells his man to stop. She asks Don if the reason he is going in is because he does not trust her. Soyu awaits Don's answer if he does not trust her. He answers that it is not the issue. Soyu reminds him that he is just a porter and so can't voice his opinion as a hunter. The answer is he is aware, so she asks his reason why he wants to challenge the old man. Don talks about how the old man wants someone fit. He says that his guess is that the old man's resentment has something to do with being unable to find a worthy disciple. For him, a disciple does just mean potential, and so has nothing to do with current skill. Soyu asks if he wants to make the old man his master instead of defeating him. Don shares that there might be a hidden clear condition, an alternative way some dungeons have to be cleared. Soyu thinks of its possibility. She asks him if he thinks he has more potential than her. Soul's samurai watches carefully for his answer as if he is ready to pounce at him the moment Dongwol says something disrespectful. Dongwol answers that he highly doubts he has more potential than her. Soyu sees that he is not denying it. Her investigative reaction makes him nervous. He admits that he just feels guilty that everyone suffered from the challenger except him. Soya looks at him intently to see how sincere he is. She smiles. She determines that he is telling the truth and is glad that he is showing his true colors. She says she has seen something in him from the very beginning, how he thought he was a wolf on the prowl from the start. She asks if he is after the dungeon's reward or some fortuitous encounter. Again, Dawn feels exposed. She feels like the woman is a fortune teller who can see right through him. Soya permits him to try the challenge. She sees no other choice and admits she is not one to talk since she failed anyway. She, however, warns him that he only has one chance. She explains that their rations are running out and that no rescue team is coming, so they need to clear it as soon as possible. Dawn bows his head at her and thanks her for the opportunity. Dawn looks at the door with determination. He was towards it. He touches its doorknob. He hesitates to answer if he wants to open the door. He enters the dark room. He sees the old man's hair has icy frost on it due to deep resentment, as the stage status said. A bright light makes Dawn cover his eyes. As he opens them, the stage becomes clearer and more detailed, with its stone levitating floor and void-like surroundings. He feels a heady pressure that makes him sit on his knees. The scary old ghost man appears and complains that his new challenger looks pitiful. He does not see his worth even fighting and decides that he should just get rid of him. The ghost eyes light up with rage. Dawn feels more pressure. His notification tells him that he is facing the memory of a cursed soul. It also informs him that it is a hidden condition as a necromancer that he achieved. Dawn worries he does not know what is happening. The notification informs him that he has acquired the S-rank necromancer skill of memory recreation. He can't believe he has achieved an S-rank skill. The notification then reports that he is using the skill now. Dawn wonders what difference his skill made, and then realizes that the old man has not gotten rid of him yet. His notification reports that the memory of the cursed soul, master of all techniques, is being recreated. A bright light makes Dawn cover his eyes. He raises for what is going to happen. A snowflake then falls on his right hand. He realizes he has been transported to an environment with a snowstorm. The old man looks like flesh and blood as he stands in the middle of the snowstorm alone. He complains about not being able to find a suitable disciple, which makes all of his accomplishments meaningless. He feels like his hard work was all for nothing. Dawn is looking around and wonders if he has been transported to another world. He sees that it is a desert of snow and ice. He suddenly feels pain. He holds on to his head, thinking that he must be feeling the emotions and pain of the old man. The old man continues to speak about his life and admits he had an interesting life. He remembers his prime and how he mastered all forms of weapons, magic, and any art already at such a young age. He is thankful that mastering the flow of ki made all techniques attainable. A narration tells how the old transcended any who lived for a long time thanks to ki, yet he still became a victim of aging. He complains that being old made drinking water feel like swallowing poison, or that even light air is aching to kill him. He looks at his body and complains that he is a thirsty man filled with pain and agony. He makes a fist, determined to die without meaning. With determined eyes, he rejects death. The old man goes to his knees. He laments how all he wanted was a single disciple, and yet he still did not get it. He cries for a world where there is no one talented enough to take on. Dawn watches as he sees the old man pleading to the skies for a worthy disciple. He screams that he can't die. Tears fall from his eyes. It falls to the snow below. He says he will sell his soul just to stay on Earth. Then his body drops to the ground. A notification says that memory recreation has ended. Dawn braces as the area transitions back. They return to the void dungeon stage. The young man tries to get a grip. He looks around to see if he is really back. He then feels pressure on his body again. It is so heavy that he is forced to his knees. He holds his chest as he feels suffocation. Still, he smiles. His face is now filled with confidence as hope has been brought back to him. The old ghost addresses him. He asks if he has peered into his soul. Dawn stands up and confirms he did. He looks at the old man and thinks about all of the power and knowledge he gathered in his long life. He has become determined to be the one to inherit it all. The old man tells him that despite finding him interesting, he still finds him unworthy of his techniques. Pressure comes back to Dawn, which forces him to kneel again. The young man tells him he is wrong. He tells him that if he continues with his high standard, he will remain a ghost forever that will always be known for his stubbornness and bullheadedness. The ghost replies that he is insolent and does not see how he has boundless generosity for continuously sparing ants like him. He asks if he needs to break one of his legs to let him come to his senses. Dawn pleads with him to listen first. The young man reviews how he has mastered every technique when most people already struggle to master one in their lifetime. The old ghost is in denial of this and says there will be another genius like him out there. Dawn points at the door and tells him that Soyu is already one of the strongest in the world. The old man is shocked. Since being a ranker like Soyu is Dawn's ultimate goal, the old man's reaction stings his pride. The young man sees that he is playing right into his hands. The old man accuses him of lying. Dawn dares him to look into his eyes and tell him that he is lying. He shouts that he knows when a man is lying. The old man sees that he is telling the truth. Dawn asks that he choose him to be a disciple instead of an unattainable standard. The old man is intrigued. Dawn continues to say that he can pass on his abilities to him. The old man now sees him as shameless and tells him that he would rather teach garbage than him. Dawn clarifies that he doesn't need to teach him directly. He opens his status window. He summons all his skeletons out. He lets the elder look at them and determine their potential. The old ghost looks closely at them. Don is hoping he sees a skeleton's limitless potential. He says that all of them have unique abilities and that it would be easy for him to teach them. The ghost taps at them as he inspects them. Don tells him that if he wants only one successor, he assures him that all of his minions' growth will be inherited by their master. He continues to sell the skeletons as beings of boundless endurance, with no fear of any opponent. The old man thinks deeply. He then turns his back on the skeletons. His reaction makes Don nervous. The old man says he finds his situation amusing and ironic. How he never thought that he was searching for the undead after all, for a disciple of limitless potential. He imagines that each skeleton must have been an exceptional warrior in life. He thinks about the tricky part of teaching more than one student. He then agrees to do so, realizing that he must compromise. A notification appears to tell Don that he has fulfilled the hidden condition. The young man's eyes widen. The place transforms into a snowy desert before, but this time there is no storm, and the sun is bright. The old man, now with a peaceful flesh and blood demeanor, tells Don that he chooses to trust his determination and asks that he promise to inherit all that he possesses no matter what trial comes, to leave a legacy for him in the world. A notification tells Don that he must convince the old man of his conviction if he wants to reach the next level. Don answers that he will not miss out on the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and promises to inherit it no matter what. The old man is satisfied. A notification appears to congratulate Don for completing the stage. Don wakes up on a bed, confused. He glimpses something. He sees that someone is in the room. He realizes it is Soyu, wearing a business suit. The young man gets a grip and realizes he is in a hospital. Soyu introduces herself again as the Vice Guild Master of Parang Guild. She looks at him with anger and tells him that she is also known as the Dark Empress. Don wonders what she is doing in his room. He does not remember what happened to him after clearing the dungeon and thinks he must have lost consciousness. Soyu says she thought clearing the dungeon boss was impossible. She looks at him with disdain, knowing that the porter was the one who cleared it when she couldn't. Don gets so scared at her that he looks away and covers himself with the blanket. He asks her why she keeps staring daggers at him. The girl does not stop doing it, so he clarifies that he wants to know why the Vice Guild Master of a major guild came to find him. Soya pulls a chair to her. She asks him how he cleared the dungeon and what reward he got for it. She continues to ask if he became the old man's disciple. He tries to look at her perspective and realizes that she must see him as some random guy who stole her achievement. He lives that another ranker would have headed him for stealing their prey. He grips the edge of the blanket out of guilt. Soyu asks him what he is thinking so deeply of. Don asks her what the news says about their dungeon exploration. Soyu understands what he is worried about and assures him that he does not need to worry since they reported that the Parang Guild successfully cleared the dungeon and had the survivors sign confidentiality agreements. Don is relieved to hear that no one knows that he was the one who cleared the dungeon. He thanks her for being considerate of him. Soyu questions why he wants to hide his achievement when most hunters would show it off to the world. Don answers that he would rather be safe than be known. Soyu tells him that she did not do it for him and was more concerned with the Parang Guild's pride. No one would believe that an E-rank porter was the VP of the expedition. Don realizes that they are keeping it a secret since it would be an embarrassment for their guild and that he should keep the truth a secret, or else they will come after him. He asks how long he was unconscious. She answers that it has been 3 days since they came out of the dungeon. Don resents that he has lost so much time. He plans not to tell anyone of the reward he got, or else he would be in danger. He tells her that he has not figured out what the reward is yet, and that he needs time to tell her about it properly. Soyu understands. He asks for some time to figure things out. He also tells her that she does not need to worry about him running away since he already knows no one can escape the eyes of the Dark Empress. Soyu looks at him with suspicion. She agrees and tells him she will come back for him once everything is sorted out. The girl closes the door behind her. Don lies on his bed in relief. He reviews his bad luck of waking up after 3 days, going to a strange dungeon, and being on the wrong side of the Parang Guild. He pictures the founder of the guild, Parang, and is hopeful that he can turn things around and have a good relationship with his guild. His notice window comes out. It gives him the notion to check his rewards. It comes to him that he has not checked his rewards yet. He presses the accept button on the window. It tells him that his energy has permanently increased by 20. It also tells him that he has acquired the S-rank skill of teaching of all techniques. He reviews his status. He sees that he already has 1 D-rank skill of summoning, plus the 2 added S-rank skills. He finds that he has achieved greatly. He realizes why so many veterans are obsessed with dungeons. He reviews the skill of Memory of the Dead. He can't think of a way to use it again. He forgets about it for now and loves reviewing his status. He goes to look at his new skill of teaching of all techniques. Its effect intrigues him. He immediately stands up. He picks up his backpack. He heads to his training grounds. He looks at his hand with curiosity. He stretches it out. He activates the skill of teaching of all techniques. A powerful olive light appears from his hand. The old man comes out of it. He tells the young man that it is about the tie that he summoned him. Don is glad to see the old man again. The old man suddenly knocks him on the head and calls him an idiot. He is angry that he only called him after 3 days. He warns him that he will not be able to keep up if he is so lazy. Don tells him that he called him as soon as he regained his senses. He is confused about how the old man hit him when he is a ghost. The elder can tell what is on his mind. He tells him that he can inflict physical contact with him because they are connected mentally. He calls for their training to begin immediately. Don prepares to summon the skeleton, but the old man tells him that there is no need. The elder says he will only focus on the young man for the day. He points at Don and tells him that he will be a problem. Don is getting irritated by the old man. The elder ghost lets him guess why he is cold. The master of all techniques. He says that he was given the name after learning and perfecting countless techniques. He tells him that he cannot teach them all about the skeletons and that it is up to him to learn the rest. Don gets overwhelmed by the news. He asks why he will do this when he was the one who told him that his talent is trash. The elder ghost stamps his foot. Then he demands silence from him. He insists that he inherit every skill he has. He says he will make even trash like him comparable to a genius. Don is shaking in his boots. The elder thinks about all the arts he created but never had the chance to use. He explains that he has a massage that will improve his physique in 300 days and that while it will be painful for the young man, hearing that he will go through excruciating pain is making Don down. He tells the old man that his heart is not ready for it. The old man gets angry and tells him that he should feel blessed that a teacher like him is giving him the time of day. He calls his massage the grand technique of the celestial artisan, and he created it in his last years. Don is confused as to why he would not just use such a high-level technique on someone in his lifetime. The old man can tell what he is thinking and explains that he needs to use his life energy while using it. He elaborates that if he had used it back then, his body would have melted and disappeared. The young man asks what would happen to him now. The elder explains that since he is already dead, nothing would happen to him. Don asks why he did not just take any other more talented people who challenged him before and use the art on them. The elder hits him on the head for the stupid question. Don asks why he did that. The elder sees that he truly does not understand and sees it as a sign that he is truly talentless. He elaborates that the massage art turns trash into genius, so it holds no meaning if it isn't used on trash. That the best use for it is for a target that is only on the level of waste food. His harsh words sting the young man. The elder continues that it won't work for someone like Soyev since their bodies have already been influenced by other energy. To him, Don's weak body is ideal for the art. He says that he regrets that he needs to use it at all since he originally wanted a real genius from the start. Don thinks about his harsh words. He wonders about the possibility of getting stronger along with his skeletons. The old man asks him if he is ready. Don answers that he is with huge energy. The screams of the young man scare off even the birds. He keeps tapping for the old man to stop. The old man keeps hitting his back but tells him it barely even began. Don tells himself to endure the passage so he can be a ranker someday. His fear is that they have just begun. The elder is impressed that he is enduring it and says he will pick up the pace. The young man keeps telling himself that he must endure. A notification appears to tell him that he has obtained the skill of pain resistance. The old man hits him more, making him cough. Don's limbs give out. The old man tells him that the massage has ended for now and praises his ability to endure. Despite his praises, Don still looks like a lifeless corpse on the ground. Still, the old man can see he has potential. Don asks if they are done for the day. The elder tells him that they still have 30 minutes left. He picks up Don to make him stand. He points at his skeleton warriors and tells him that they are waiting for him. Don looks at them in tears. He agrees to continue, but is secretly thinking he wants to die. The old ghost teaches that physical strength is the foundation of all techniques and is impressed by the skeletons for being able to build strength even without muscles. He starts the training by demonstrating a horse riding stance that requires a squat posture. The skeletons follow the old man's stance, and the old teacher continues to speak about building strength and stability through a solid base. Don is in a squat position too, and is struggling to do it after the passage. The old man reminds him again that he has no talent, that what he has in spades instead is tenacity. He reminds him that the master should not be weaker than those he summons. Don is still holding his stance and endures his already torn muscles. He compares the experience to torture. 30 minutes later, Don is resting on the ground with heavy breath. The old man ends the session. He orders Don to do the physical training every morning and not summon him unless he does so. With that, the old man disappears. Don is still on the ground panting. His skeletons are near him, waiting for his command. He calls for B1. The skeleton is all ears. He asks the bone man to carry him since he can't even walk. Later on, Don goes to his guild. Junso calls him the moment he sees him. He asks that he come to him quickly. Junso introduces him to 2 survivors from the dungeon he cleared. Don recalls who they are. The survivors are glad to see him, and they notice that he looks more muscular nowadays. Don wonders what they mean. He now noticed that he had bulked up. He realizes that his body is now more muscular, as they said. He wonders if this is the result of the massage. He refocused on why the hunters from the dungeon before came to find him. He asks them what brings them to his guild. One of them introduces himself as Jugo and says they wanted to meet up with him because his actions and attitude left an impression on them. He shakes hands with Don and says they intend to team up with him. Junso watches with a smile as he sees his friend create new companions. The hunters get to the point and tell the young man about the new dungeon they know of. They explain that this new dungeon is a crank type. Don is surprised as they tell him they know about his financial struggles that make him accept any jobs. Don looks at Junso with an angry face. Junso looks guilty while looking back at him. Don admits that it is true that he needs the money. Jugo says that it is all the more reason to come with them. He reports that he has heard that a party that entered the dungeon ended up with a power potion. Don is shocked by the mention of the potion. He reviews that a power potion is a rare reward regardless of rank, and that it is an elixir that can cure all illnesses. Jugo continues to say that he will be a hunter this time instead of a porter. Don asks about the payment. Jugo says that their profit will be split. This excites Don. He thinks about how they can get about 50 million won if they come across a power potion. He divides the number for 6 people each and realizes that they will get roughly 33 million each. His eyes turn to money signs at the thought. Jugo asks if he would join them. Don agrees to go. He gets curious about how strong his skeletons must be after the training and thinks this is a good chance to see them in action. The deal is done, and they agree to meet at a location. The next morning, Don returns to his training site. As the skeletons train, the young man tells the elder ghost about his next mission. The old man disapproves since he has just started training. However, he thinks the practical experience might be good for him. Don asks if he has his permission. He agrees, but he tells him with an angry face that it will not be an excuse to skip his training. The old man tells him that he should summon him even when he is already in the dungeon. The old man readies his hands for the massage session. Don gets scared that he has to. He screams from the session, sending birds to fly away. Don's body hurts from the massage. The elder man tells him that he did a good job. The panting man feels like he almost died. He remembers how he received the pain resistance skill and how he would already be dead without it. He hopes that this skill grows as time goes by. The old man claps and congratulates him for doing well. Don tells him that the credit goes to him. The elder tells him that he is ready for a raised intensity starting tomorrow. The young man is surprised. The old man ignores his reaction and announces to start their proper training. He calls to gather everyone. The skeletons gather towards him. He tells them all to assume a squatting position like last time. He also announces that he will teach each of them a technique every day. The old man cracks his hands. He then points to B1. The skeleton looks at Don. The young man tells the old man that he is a swordsman and that all he can do is swing a sword. The old man says he is fine with that and that they can develop him as they go. The ghost orders the skeleton with an intimidating face to take a swing. B1 gets scared of him. Don grabs the skeleton by the shoulder and tells him that he will make him a great swordsman. He warns him that the caveat is that he needs to train to the point of his bones breaking. His words only send more shivers down his spine. B1 spends the day practicing his sword swings. The old man suddenly asks Don his name. The young man answers. The old man then asks him what, in his words, is swordsmanship. The young man answers unconfidently that it is a technique used for swordsmanship. The old man is not surprised by his answer. He tells him that he is right. He grabs a stick and tells him that swordsmanship is simply the skill to handle a sword. He throws the stick over to Don and tells him to pick it up. Don looks at the stick on the ground. As he picks it up, he realizes that the old man not only wants B1 to inherit his sword skills, but him too. He holds the stick in his hand and looks at it. He takes a swordsman stance and asks the old man how he wants him to wield it. The old man replies that he can wield it in any way he chooses. Don finalizes his stance. He swings it as hard as he can as the old man orders. The old man compliments his style. Don is surprised that it took little to press him. The old man makes him look at how he grips his sword. He compliments how he firmly raised his thumb while the other fingers were holding in place. Then he reviews how he swung his blade in the optimum positions. It impresses him that he swung that way despite not teaching him anything yet. He sees that he swings based on everything he has experienced so far. Don looks at the stick as the old man deems that he put his life into his swing. The young man wonders if it is true. The old man asks him if he thinks his swing will become more powerful if he adds strength and speed to it. Don does not know what to say. The old man says that a slash will always get more powerful with strength and speed, and that it is a fact that will never change until the world ends. It makes the young man wonder. He holds his stick with clarity. He realizes that his ghost teacher wants him to create his own slash and apply strength and speed to it. The old man reads his mind and determines that he is starting to understand. The old man then asks him if he knows what will happen if his slash were repeated millions of times and reached its peak. He holds the sword. He then tells Don to watch him handle a sword closely. The student watches with focus. The old man winds up his sword swing. He slices the air with precision. Over and over he slices. He continues to say that there is no need for theoretical discussions. He reminds his student to strengthen his slash. If he does so, eventually everyone will use his technique as the standard. Don gulps at the thought. He holds up his stick, not caring if he looks awkward. He continues swinging the stick with no care for how he looks while doing it. A notification pops up to inform him that he acquired the skill of Rend, and it tells him that the skill has the potential for further growth. Parang, the founder of the Parang Guild, is doing paperwork in his office. He hears his sister call his name. Soyu appears. He worries she is in trouble since this is the first time she has come to see him in his office. Soyu tells him that something has been bothering her recently. She asks him if a hunter around D rank can suddenly exhibit strength beyond a ranker. Parang finds her question odd. He answers that he thinks it would take too much time for a D rank, even with every cheat available. He can only picture a D rank rivaling a ranker if it turns out they have been hiding their skills all along. Soyu tells him that she can confirm that they were never hiding their skills. He believes her because of her ability to sense abilities with the skill of search. Parang asks what is going on. The sister is hesitant to answer. She thinks about how she has yet to make a report about her experience in the last dungeon. She is too embarrassed to tell his brother that he was defeated repeatedly. He remembers the intimidating old man. She feels ashamed to know that she never felt so powerless before. It makes her mad just thinking about Don. She remembers how out of the ordinary he was when she first laid her eyes on him. She remembers her curiosity about what would happen if she let him enter the boss stage. Now it troubles her that he actually cleared it. She remembers how the man promised to tell her what happened, and so she tries to be patient until he does. Parang realizes that his sister is smiling while in deep thought. Her brother noticing makes Soyu flustered. She stands from her seat and tells him she is leaving. As she leaves, Parang teases her not to be shy around him. Meanwhile, hunters gather in front of Vortex Gate to a dungeon. Jugo and his bandana-wearing friend see someone approaching. They see that Don has arrived. Jugo greets him and asks if he got all the details he sent him. Don reviews from the text message that the mission is to eliminate monsters and defeat the loss of the dungeon. Don tells him that he slathered on sunscreen and packed water as he asked. Jugo is glad he did not need reminding. Don then looks at the crowd and wonders why there are more people than the 6 they mentioned before. He sees that there are 2 hunters that he does not know about that are coming. Jugo tells him that he invited F-rank porters. Don answers that he understands. He thinks about how it makes sense to have porters pick up the ores in sight drops. He thinks about how he is going to a C-rank dungeon and calls himself I thinking it will be fine. He reminds himself as he looks at the Vortex Gate that his skeletons can even defeat an orc, even if it is the highest D-rank monster. He enters the light of the vortex. He discovers that the environment is a desert. He walks the sand. He takes a glimpse of the harsh sun. His notification tells him that all his stats had decreased by 10% because of the harsh environment. The others are having as hard a time adjusting to the heat. Don sees that the porters are the ones who struggle to adjust the most. He is confused since he feels little discomfort. He remembers the old man and how the desert does not compare to his hellish massage. He activates his summon skill. His skeletons appear. They walk towards the others in the party. The one with the bandana senses that his skeletons seem stronger than when they were in the dungeon. Jugo grabs everyone's attention and tells them that the monsters they will be facing are scorpions and snakes. The others get scared, but Jugo assures them that they are only C-rank monsters. He also reminds the porters to follow them and do their duty. They walk for a while. The hunters are already out of mood and energy from the heat. Jugo suddenly orders them to stop. They look at the surroundings and see nothing suspicious. The bandana man asks him why they stopped. He suddenly feels a tremble. A scorpion tail comes out of the ground. Suddenly they are surrounded by giant scorpions. Jugo takes out a dagger. He slices through any of them. He orders the others to pull themselves together and prepare for battle. Everyone goes into battle positions. Don observes as everyone battles. He calls for B1. The skeleton uses the magic of air shield on the hunters as his master orders. Don also gets an air shield around his body. He then calls for all his minions. He orders them to wipe out all the scorpions. Don stands back with an air shield around him. Meanwhile, B4 stomps his shield on the ground. A notice says the skeleton used the low-level skill of taunt. Don orders all skeletons to attack. The desert scorpions look at B4 because of the taunt. B1 readies a swing of his sword. He hits the scorpion shells. It seemingly did no damage, yet the scorpion he hit goes down. Don orders him to keep hitting his targets until they collapse. B3 hits them with consecutive arrows. B2 can pierce through their shells with his spear strikes. Don watches their progress. He is glad to see them doing well. Jugo praises his skeletons. Dongul tells him that they are only doing well because he attacked the large group of scorpions first. Jugo laughs and says he is being too humble. Dongul finds his praises insincere and becomes suspicious of him. He looks around. He sees and observes that the hunters are strong. He does not see why they need an E-rank hunter like him. He also remembers that they know that he was the one who received the reward for the high difficulty dungeon. He knows that they signed confidentiality papers. He concludes that they asked him for a dungeon exploration so they could be alone with him. He can sense the others looking at him funny. Don decides he needs to be careful. Unknown to him, Jugo is looking at him from behind. His eyes say he is scheming something. They reach a temple. The notification says that they have reached the stage of the ancient desert scorpion king and that a sacrifice is needed to open it. It continues to say that the sacrifice offerings should be placed atop the altar. It also says that an F rank is the ideal offering, worrying the porters. Don thinks about how there was no mention of this in the sent details. The porters overhear the sarcastic voice of the hunters saying that this is strange. They ask where they are getting a sacrifice while in the middle of the desert. Their faces look mischievous as they look at the porters. One of the porters asks what is going on. Jugo tells them that they need 2 offerings. He tells them to hurry up and go up the temple, scaring the porters more. A porter tells them that they are out of their minds. The other porter asks why they are doing this to them. Jugo smiles and calls them stupid for not finding it strange that the pay for the job was higher than usual. He takes out his dagger and tells them that to get high pay, they must pay a high price. Don sees how he is behaving so openly in front of him. He concludes that it must mean Jugo is confident that he can beat him. Don is angered by his look. Jugo goes on to threaten the porters with his dagger. Don gets in front of the porters. Jugo is surprised and asks the necromancer if this means he is going against them. He accuses him of playing the hero. Don asks him what their goal is. He clarifies that he wants to know why he brought him to the dungeon. He shouts at him, demanding to know. Jugo tells him that they are curious about what reward he got from the last dungeon. He tells him that he wants the secret that even a ranker like Soyu failed to get. However, he also says that he has no intention of fighting. His only condition is for him to join them, and for him to give them equal shares of the reward. Don calls them crazy, and now sees them as nothing more than evil. He analyzes his options, and smiles as he plans to fight them. Don summons B3 and tells the skeleton to wipe them all out. Pulling on his bow, he lets it rain arrows. Jugo cuts the projectiles down, saving his men from being impaled. He has the hunter's answer, which he deems regrettable. As he refuses to team up with a bunch of animals, the 2 parties clash. Skeletons charged in, and the evil man was surprised by their strength. Although struggling, he mocks the necromancer, saying he was a mere porter days ago. Don can't deny that he's actually stronger than expected. He's a C rank, but his abilities are close to a B rankers. At least it's for the better. Suddenly, Jugo smiles, despite having trouble against his enemy. It's a big mistake to think he can win, just because he's only up against one person. He asks if the newbie knows why they fearlessly wander into unknown ranked dungeons. The answer is money, of course. Don feels intense killing intent, and has B1 block a flying dagger. Even through their connection, he feels the impact of the attack. As he distanced himself from the skeleton, a dark figure appeared behind Jugo. The hunter that appeared behind him is an A-rank assassin from the Shadow Lurkers. The man confirms that the necromancer cleared the dungeon, which even Soyu couldn't. Looking at the high-ranking hunter, Don started to lose hope, as it's a miracle that he even managed to last against his current enemies. If an A-ranker intervenes now, there's no way out. Feeling cornered, the porters then apologize for causing trouble and express their gratitude. He sees their tears and questions why they have to go through such suffering. There's no reason for them to be sacrificed just because they're weak. Wanting to save them, he clenches his fist and vows to protect the innocent. While the enemy is a high-ranking assassin, he has a powerful ally who's strong enough to trample them all. Summoned for the day, Master looks at the 2 powerful enemies. He clicks his tongue, having expected this to happen, when the novice said he'd wander around. Since the situation is urgent, Don begs the elder for advice. However, the young man is told to accept his fate, as he's no match for them at all. He finds it pitiful that someone claiming to be his disciple would struggle against weaklings. The hunter tells him to stop lamenting, and that he can't fulfill his goal if his disciple dies. However, the old man is firm, saying he got himself into this mess, and that he's the one aggrieved. Meanwhile, the Shadow Lurker directly asks what he got from the dungeon reward. Hearing this, Don finally understands that they don't really want to kill him, but want the reward he obtained. In other words, there's still a way to solve his problem. They're intimidating him and taking control, but will be in trouble if he doesn't share his secrets. In that case, he tries a method which even the elder acknowledges. First off, he confirms that they're after the dungeon reward that even Soyu couldn't take for herself. He agrees to tell them, especially since he's an A ranker. It's a wise and sensible choice, but he refuses to do so until he's allowed to fight the backstabbers without interruption. Until his resentment and frustration subside, his heart won't let him speak. Determined, he doesn't even give them an alternative to the deal. The hunter hesitates, and the porters start to worry about his approach. He doubles down, saying he just can't stand having his pride stepped on. Seeing their obvious suspicion, Don says he won't try anything, as he can't escape their clutches anyway. Even if he was scheming something, he could never deceive the eyes of an A-ranker. Seeing his point, the man becomes more welcoming to the deal. Since the Shadow Lurkers are after him, he says he's as good as dead anyway. But even if he dies, he won't let those backstabbers walk unscathed. As they continued to hesitate, Don took the skeleton's sword, threatening to end himself. His plan finally works as the ranker tells him to wait for a moment. He'll give him exactly 30 minutes, but if he dares to try anything, he'll make sure he lives in agony, unable to die even if he wants to. With this, the deal is made. Don accepts the deal, and Jugo is indignant at the agreement, especially since he's being underestimated too much. Believing it's best to try regardless, the necromancer readies his skeletons. With the stage set, Master finally agrees to intervene, saying they'll train with practical guidance. To face the assassin later, he needs to conserve as much energy as possible. He teaches him a strategy to use an opponent's strength against them, which requires minimal effort. Getting the idea, he thanks the elder. The skeletons move to his command, charging at the group of hunters. The encounter goes on for a while, and they exchange a few blows here and there. Jugo realized that the necromancer is stronger than expected. Just then, B5 raised its staff, shooting a fireball at the hunters. They ran away in fear, not knowing when skeletons learned to use such techniques. B1 followed up, pressuring the enemies and pushing them back, even breaking their blades with its own. Watching from a distance, the assassin sees that their movements are flawless and clean. At this rate, the low-ranked hunter might actually win. However, that's the least of his problems, as he suddenly feels a familiar presence. His ally should be outside and on the lookout, but his aura is by the entrance. Jugo pants in exhaustion, beaten, and at a loss. A dark shadow is cast on him as Dawn approaches to deal the final blow. Terrified, he pathetically backed away, begging to be shown mercy. They're too weak to consider as real combat experience, but it's a good warm-up for the assassin. However, even the master knows that it'll be too much. Having put his life on the line since the very beginning, he calls on B1. Just then, they all froze as they felt someone approaching fast. Another assassin on the first one's level has just joined the battlefield. He's good at everything else, but the newbie often fails to think ahead. The elder is right, of course, as he has no more tricks up his sleeve. He doesn't want to admit it, but he was far too confident and made a dangerous gamble for his life. Jugo cackles in triumph, saying they'd never come with just one backup. The second assassin arrives, and Dawn considers running away while he can. However, to their surprise, the newcomer says they have to go, as Soya was nearby. Confused, they stared in silence, not knowing why the top ranker was there at all. With no time to think, they had to move fast if they wanted to avoid death. With this, the shadow lurkers disappeared, leaving Jugo alone and desperately calling out. In a surprising turn of events, the power of the top ranker is shown. Out by the portal entrance, Soya stood with her arms crossed, wondering if she was overreacting. Following the young man that far felt like she was stalking him. With the guild's help, she was able to track him to this dungeon, but she suddenly turned around, feeling like it wasn't right. He promised to come back to her once she sorted things out. Deciding to give him a bit more time, she leaves right away. Back inside, the traitorous hunters were being taken down, one by one. Watching his allies get killed, Jugo refused to die in such a pathetic way. As such, he's going to use everything he can and turn toward the porters. Facing their target skeletons, Jugo's eyes shifted, looking for something to do. Dawn could see right through him and his plan to target the weak porters instead. He calls to B1, transmitting his thoughts and commands. The swordsman immediately obeyed, charging at the hunter and swinging to cut his left hand off. Ear-piercing screams filled the desert. Walking coldly, Dawn wondered would they still have spared him if he were weaker. The answer was an obvious no, and the same goes for the rest. In pain and anger, Jugo cursed him, refusing to take everything so easily. He tries to fight back and lunges at the necromancer. However, the B1 reacted instantly, this time severing his leg. Hopelessly falling to the ground, he's left with nothing to do but scream at his enemy, questioning why he had to show himself before him. That said, he seems to have forgotten that they were the ones who approached him. He puts his head to the ground, telling the hunter to be quick with it. Dawn scoffs at the request and says he won't be dying in such a laid-back manner. Gritting his teeth in anger, Jugo grabs him with his remaining arm and tells the man to kill him already. Just then, the skeletons grabbed the man by his wrist, dragged him across the sand, and tossed him onto the sacrificial platform. They place another hunter on the next platform to open the dungeon's boss room. With the sacrifice requirement cleared, the room buzzed. Had this incident not happened, Dawn would have left the dungeon without defeating it. However, it's a different story now, and he's only returning what he was given. They'll repay kindness with generosity and answer violence with vengeance. If someone goes for his life, he will take theirs without an ounce of mercy. As the bodies dissipate, the conditions are met, and the ancient seal is lifted. Staring at the now empty platform, he tells them to live their next life well. Dawn then thinks about Soyu and why she hasn't arrived yet. The shadow lurkers ran away, fearing her arrival. In fact, if it wasn't for her, he would have had to fight two A-rankers and might have ended up on the platform instead. Just then, the ground shook as the door opened. The ancient Scorpion King has been unsealed, and its rage, suppressed for ages, erupts into the heavens. Its presence is so strong and imposing that the skeleton's stats all decrease by a fifth. When Dawn starts to worry, one of the porters asks if things are going to be okay. While he isn't certain, he assures them that whatever is inside is better than the hunters from earlier. He tries to calm down, remembering the training he went through. Master chimed in, mockingly saying that he shouldn't need his help for this. If he does, then it actually is better if he just died right there. Adding that he isn't joking, he reminds his disciple to call in for training the next day, With this, the summoning skill ends for the day, and the old man disappears. A high-pitched noise echoed from the inside, and a giant scorpion came charging out. In the end, he has to face the boss all by himself, so he tells it to come forward nonetheless. With the boss approaching, Don and his skeletons were immediately on high alert. However, nothing erupted from the open doors. Unfazed by the sudden silence, he wondered if it was attacking from below. Calling to B5, he commands it to cast an air shield and instructs the others to assume their formation. They all move fast and cover their bases, getting ready for what might come. Just then, the ground beneath them cracked. The scorpion erupted from behind, taking B3 out in a surprise attack. Don is surprised that it went straight for the archer while ignoring him. Proving its battle sense, it spun around, targeting the magician next. Quickly grasping the situation, the necromancer orders the tank to taunt the enemy and receive its aggression. Fortunately, this works well, and the boss is soon charging at them in no time. B4 handles the blow well, standing firm while blocking the attack. With this, they get a chance to counter. Don summons everyone, and they all rush in to strike together. Arrows and flame blasts rained on its hard shell. The Nali fighters followed through, swinging and not caring if it had a weak point or not. After all, their strength is in their numbers. However, the scorpion refuses to lose just like that, so it spins to send them all flying. While the force makes them recoil, it's not enough to defeat the skeletons. The necromancer smiles, knowing their efforts are working, and that they're undeniably inflicting damage on the boss. Invigorated, he tells his men to let go of their worries, as he can just revive them again. He has 50 energy left, which should be enough to summon throughout the fight. Feeling invincible, B1 jumped in to swing at the enemy. The scorpion's quick movements catch his openings, but he's revived as soon as he dies. This surprises the boss, who now has to face another rush of opponents. Despite Don's fervent cries, it fights back with all its strength and tries to face them head-on. The skeletons outmatch its battle sense, now cutting its venomous stinger off. With one of the biggest threats taken care of, they charged in. Soon enough, the necromancer looks in awe as the system announces that he's defeated the ancient king. He exclaims in delight, excited by the victory, but nearly passes out due to exhaustion. If the boss had resisted a bit more, he certainly would have lost in no time. With this victory, their skills also level up accordingly, and the experience from the C-rank boss makes the battle worth it. Don receives an item called the Ancient Scorpion's Venom Gland. Accepting it without hesitation, it immediately appears in his hand. The gland has about 20 different poisons inside, allowing him to create equipment or use it as a skill ingredient. Seeing this, B3 suddenly began to nod and make noises. Checking it out, the necromancer sees the reaction grow as he comes closer. Just then, a hidden condition was fulfilled. Due to obtaining a high-ranking poison, he's given the chance to create a poison arrow skill. The hunter is stunned, not knowing that a skill can be unlocked that way. He finally understands why dungeons are so sought after. He learns the skill, and B3 nearly brims with the new power. With this, he clears the dungeon and is granted his reward. A bright light flashed, taking him back to the real world with the porters. They jumped in joy, thanking the necromancer for keeping them alive. Warned against going anywhere just because they're offered money, the three of them part ways with a smile. Now alone, Don goes and checks on his reward. It's a rank item called the Trace of the Ancient Desert. A bright light flashed on Don's palm, and the dungeon reward appeared in the form of a shining key. According to the description, it uncovers the secrets of a hidden relic and is bound to him. He wonders if it's a linked dungeon of some sorts. While he hoped for someone to explain it to him, a familiar figure approached his oblivious self. Noticing her presence, he looked back and was surprised to see the Dark Empress watching. Soe bashfully spoke, saying he must have sorted his thoughts as he's now conquering dungeons. Besides, if she didn't come to him, he probably would have never sought her out. As they can't outright deny the claim, he starts to panic and considers mixing a few lies into his explanation. However, the idea of her catching him is even more terrifying, given her reputation and aura. He decides to just tell her the truth, as it may be more beneficial. Plus, he's a novice hunter who still has so much to learn about this world. If he can use this as an opportunity to build a connection with a ranker, then he must take it. He sighs in resignation, agreeing to explain how he cleared the dungeon and show her his reward. Promising to share everything, Don adds that there's one condition. First, he needs her protection, at least until he grows stronger. It's not like he owes any debts, but there are bad people with a grudge against him. Waiting for the second condition, she's asked to teach the rookie what he doesn't know, starting with the key item he received from the dungeon. Seeing it, Soe couldn't hide her surprise and asked if it was a medium. Given the ranker's reaction, he wonders if the item can really be worth so much. She asks if he got it. From the dungeon he just exited. He must really be lucky, as the chances of finding a medium in a regular dungeon are almost zero. There are less than 100 in the world, and untradeable since it's bound. He's still confused, not knowing what it can do. Mediums are also like a chance encounter, opening the gates to linked quests, which increase in rank and eventually reach S and above. Every medium she knows has done that. He can't help but be stunned by the news. rankers, including herself, are desperately searching for these items, so it's surprising that he found one by chance. With this, she accepts the conditions, putting a huge smile on his face. However, she has a condition as well. Soon after, they enter the young man's apartment, and the S-ranker can't hide her astonishment. Since it's a pretty shabby place, littered with trash and used clothes, he told her not to come, but taking care of him is part of their agreement. She confirms that there are no surveillance devices, skills, or dangerous hunters in the vicinity. Now that she's aware of his residence, she'll be staying at the rooftop for the time being. Before he could protest, she just tells him to let her know when he's about to train tomorrow. Back in the forest, the condition she mentioned was monitoring his training. Ever since he cleared the old master's dungeon, his energy has grown exponentially, and she's most curious about how he's achieving this rapid growth. Following their deal, he's already explained everything about the dungeon encounter, including the old master and the type of training he's been receiving from him. The only problem he has left is the matter of the shadow lurkers. If they continue to threaten him, he has to give back as much as he gets from them. The next day, the familiar pounding continued. The wind is knocked out of Don's body, but the master just tells him not to overreact, as his body is finally taking shape. In other words, he must understand that they will soon need to increase the intensity. The young man whines, saying it's just violence at this point. Hearing this, the old man's face wrinkled in anger. The master is insulted as his disciple vulgarly describes his grand technique as violence. Anger, he tells him to prepare for true pain. The young man's screams filled the forest as the pounding grew much stronger. However, it seems effective, as Don's pain resistance skill later levels up. While he's still trembling from the shock of it all, Soyu approached, silently looking over his body. No matter how many times she sees it, the ranker just can't get used to the odd process. He's explained everything related to the master, but it's not like she can see him, and she can't follow just by watching. Master tells him to get up, as they still have 30 minutes left. He does as told, already knowing the routine and not having the energy to argue. He's also giving the skeleton rotations on training, which has allowed them to grow stronger every day. The problem is he has to match their pace. He calls on the status window and is satisfied by the growth he's showing. Following their training, he's learned all of the summoning skills, except for B5, who's a mage. To learn magic, he first needs to learn how to use the body's ki. Already knowing this, the old man draws something on the ground and tells his student to sit cross-legged. Obeying, he's then instructed to recite the formula he was taught last time. While doing so, he's to focus and feel how the formless energy moves in his body. Closing his eyes, he started reciting and fell into a trance of deep concentration. Breathing is the most crucial step, and if he can't feel the ki while the skeletons are being trained, then there's no choice but to judge him as talentless and power through with sheer intensity. With no other options, he breathes in and out, determined to endure anything just to get stronger. Later at night, Soya was guarding from the rooftop as usual and wondering if Don really became the old man's disciple. She still remembers the countless times she was thrown by the elder. The memory alone is enough to make her shudder. While it started with the chance encounter, the hunter's determination to endure deserves acknowledgement. Since it's come to this, she decides to observe them for now. After all, the master she couldn't do anything against is right beside him. Just from watching him grow, she feels like she might break her own limits someday. As the night grew deeper, she wondered how far he'd grow and was excited by the thought. Meanwhile, in the Shadow Lurkers' headquarters, the CEO took another glass of wine, facing an underling with a request. They're asking for help in dealing with Soyo. It's the member who attacked Don in the dungeon. Hellhound, owner of the Lurkers, says they aren't keen on dealing with the Parang Guild either. The man bows an apology, saying they should have dealt with it before the ranker got involved. The boss asks if it really is an opportunity that would give him control over the top hunters. He confirms it, adding that Soyo, no matter how difficult she is taking a direct interest. The description is tempting to say the least. Snapping his fingers, a secretary immediately appears by Hellhound's side, answering his call. He asks for the guild's schedule and is told that they're booked for the next month. Thinking about it for a while, he confirms Don's rank and is told that it's currently at rank E. Since he still has a long way to go, the boss clears his schedule for a month later, wanting to see the young man himself. He grows excited, smiling ominously. Meanwhile, the hunter in question was doing sit-ups and falling to the ground in exhaustion as usual. Soya quietly waited for him to finish and unexpectedly called his name. With a serious expression, she says she has something to tell him. Don gets up, as Soya seems to have something important to say. She recalls her promise to protect him from ambushes until he grew stronger. This is true, but he didn't expect her to be watching him around the clock. Since she's a ranker, she must have dungeons to clear and guild matters to address. As he mentioned, she's been neglecting her responsibilities in the 2 weeks since their deal. Now he has two options to choose from. First, he follows her around for 6 hours, or he uses the medium key obtained from the previous dungeon. He had completely forgotten about the key and summons the precious item onto his palm. Bound to his name, only he can use it to enter a linked dungeon. It might be safer there than with her, since no other hunter will be able to enter. However, he worries for his safety as he'll be all alone in a B-ranked dungeon. His hesitation makes her smile. She tells her that this might not be the case and that he doesn't realize just how much he's grown. This might be a great opportunity to check his current level of strength. In her opinion, at least, he should be able to clear it without worry. He nearly blushes, not expecting to be praised by a top ranker. As an irregular necromancer, no one acknowledged him as an E-rank hunter. Now he can't believe he's receiving someone's recognition, more so a ranker's. Gripping the key tight, he smiles with newfound confidence and goes with the second option. He intends to go without hesitation, as he's already finished his morning training anyway. To summon the dungeon, he's instructed to infuse his energy into the key. Suddenly feeling a sense of worry, he takes a second before doing as told. The medium shined bright, and a prompt asked if he wanted to activate the secret quest. Despite the warning of it being a solo dungeon, he just smiles and bids Soya goodbye, promising to be back soon. With a bright flash of light, he appears in a completely different place, and in front of an ancient pyramid. Already sensing danger, he summons his skeletons right away. As his small army rows, they walk to the structure together, taking their time to face the dungeon. They maintain formation, following their master faithfully. As D ranks, they're bound to be too weak for a B-ranked dungeon, so they must fight like the weak and rise to victory together. Opening the door to the dungeon, he's met with an eerie and cold silence. Getting in was fairly easy, but as soon as they stepped inside, the system looked into the hunter's connection to the dungeon. With this, the dungeon transformed and the doors slammed shut, trapping them all inside. To make things worse, they're sucked deeper in, unable to fight against the structure's will. A little while later, he wakes up in the dark, shaking after falling on the hard floor. He entered so confidently, but ended up stuck in a ridiculous situation. Fortunately, he ended up in a place with his skeletons, so they can start scouting their surroundings. Obtaining the skill to secure vision, B3 shot an illuminating arrow, shedding light on the paths that are open. That said, it's still uncertain if the path they're taking is the right one. Nonetheless, they have no choice but to move forward now. Suddenly, a bright flash of light nearly blinds him. The system says he's discovered the stage, Resentment of the Sun Spear. Deep within the dungeon lies a warrior and absolute ruler of the ancient desert empire. His mission is to break through the obstacles and reach the Sun Spear. Just then, Dawn gasped in shock as countless skeletons were brought to life. The rain poured on a city in the desert. Walking and growling in resentment, a figure removed its hood, revealing dark and huge wings. The people called him a monster and half-breed, questioning how he could even think about fitting in with humans like them. Some tried to cut his hands off the moment he was born, while some targeted his weak ankles. In the end, someone took his eyes, leaving nothing but empty sockets. While they wished for him to die, attacking at every opportunity, he was too skilled with his weapon to succumb. Wielding his unique spear, he cleaved through all his enemies, taking them down one by one. In the end, he was left all alone. If everyone was going to take what was his, then he too will mercilessly take what is theirs. The skeletons in the dungeon suddenly breathed with life, and Dawn can only curse the situation he's in. He's promptly warned that 100 skeleton spearmen approached. Acting quick, B4 is ordered to block from the front for now. It's dangerous to fight in the open field, so he has to lure them into a narrow corridor. When that happens, they can hold off and take a few out at a time. The army charged in, and the tank shielded his comrades from danger. Following through, the others took the chance and defeated those who came too close. Things work well for some time, but the shield will eventually reach its limit. Dawn tells them not to be so reckless and play with the flow of the battle. One grabs onto the skeleton's leg, but B3 quickly deals with the problem. Defeating one at a time, they aim at the next target. Suddenly, the necromancer found spears, inches away from his face. Fortunately, he's trained just as hard as his men. He lets his instincts move his body and grabs the weapons barehanded. His own army is as reliable as always, more so with B5 launching huge fireballs at the enemies. These explode in the middle of the crowd, defeating several opponents at once. However, while many go down, there are just as many ready to step forward and take their place. The skeleton spearmen marched forward, and Dawn realized that none of his efforts were enough. He feigns a smile of confidence, telling them all to come as they may. They charge at him, and the exhausting back and forth continued, draining the resources of both sides in no time. The first time he resummons a fallen skeleton, the enemies are surprised. If need be, he'll keep stabbing his enemies and pick a new one up if the weapon breaks. With his own method, he plows through the group, facing everyone head-on. Frustration started to seep in, and the battle soon became one of attrition. He huffed and puffed, exhausted from the extended exchange. After a while, the system says that the sleeping Sun Spear has awakened. Watching, it sneered at him, asking if he's a worthy opponent, given his poor skills. Insulted and mocked, Dawn curses him, not that he knows who the Sun Spear really is. That said, he's cleared a dungeon much harder than this, and convinced the old master that he was worthy. With the enemy's taunts working, the hunter decides to push forward. As they prepared their formation, the system blared once more, again warning them of 100 spearmen approaching. He sighs in annoyance, believing that there must be an infinite spawn gimmick, until he reaches the destination. At this rate, there will be no end to this encounter, so he has to get there as soon as possible. Watching B4 block the attacks, Dawn abruptly asks for his shield, wanting to tank from now on. Slamming the equipment flat on the ground, he tells B5 to cast air shield on his body. They'll be ignoring the others and running straight for the boss room, hoping to get there before they fall. Facing the countless enemies in front, it's time to take a chance. Holding the shield tight, Dawn leaped forward, launching his body into the enemy army. He doesn't have much energy left, and he's determined to do what it takes just to make it through. Several spears hit at once, and he could barely manage to stand his ground. Fortunately, he's smart enough to deflect their strikes up and send a few counters of his own. His goal is simple: break through the obstacles and make it to the Sun Spear. It's all he has to do, and with that in mind, he charged into the horde, not caring about anything else, including his safety. Inch by inch, step by step, he got closer to his goal, thinking all he needed was a bit more distance. Finally, a bright light from a pathway lit up. The Sun Spear sneered at him. It calls him a pathetic human who dares to challenge him despite his weaknesses. Feeling red but insulted, Dawn sneered right back. Even more skeletons showed up, and it's as if there was no end to them and the battle. His skeletons get taken down one by one, and things continue this way, he would die for sure. Cursing the dungeon, he moved on, taking hits and defeating enemies along the way. A while later, he panted in exhaustion, and soon reached a huge pile of lifeless enemies. He realizes that they're from the horde, which he just defeated. In other words, the rooms he's been passing through were all set up to run in a circle. After it all, regardless of which way he went, there was no end to his tribulation. Now facing another set of enemies, he's left with the choice of fighting or giving up. Things are dire, particularly since he only has 20 energy left. Meanwhile, there are still about 30 more enemies. With nothing else to do, he decides to hold out for as long as he possibly can. His skeletons do as told, keeping their battle going. The necromancer is set on breaking through while the skeletons hold out for him. Since there are no unclearable dungeons, he just has to think of what may be hidden from him. He manages to reach the top of the pile, but the objective of reaching the Sun Spear remains unchanged. Annoyed, he looks around for it and finds an odd void on the ceiling. Realizing what it might be, he called for B4 to come to him fast. The Sun Spear taunts him, who finally noticed after an exhausting ordeal, calling him a stupid human, the mystery being called on him to come, wanting to turn all lowly humans into ash. Using the shield as a springboard, Dawn answers the challenge and jumps up to the portal above. A couple of red lights greeted him, and he reached up to enter the black void. Finally, he's met the Sun Spear, signaling the skeleton army to disappear. Overjoyed and feeling victorious, he tugged at his hand, wanting to pull the enemy out. However, a bright red warning flashed, saying the Sun Spear had been summoned. The dark void swallowed him whole, and his memory recreation skill activated on its own. In a few moments, he will be transported into someone else's world. Facing countless enemies down, the Sun Spear struck mercilessly, killing everyone in his path. They started at first and rejected his very being, so they should have no problem with him being rough. He glowed under the light of the sun, and people soon started bowing down, exalting him as a great hero and warrior of the Desert Empire. Promising faith, they asked for his mercy and leadership. Hearing this, he scoffed at them and outright rejected the idea. To resurrect the ecosystem of the desert, they all need to die. Everyone is told to raise their spears. From that moment on, they were ordered to slaughter one another and burn everything like the scorching sun. The outcast was drunk with power and laughed maniacally as they all followed. With another flash of light, the memory recreation ended. Now Dawn opened his eyes and found himself facing the Sun Spear himself. Seeing the sun shine from his back, it was as if facing a deity. He questions if he really was in a B-rank dungeon. It's a similar case to the time he faced the master of all techniques. Seeing him, the spirit's first words were calling him a filthy and heinous human, asking if he came to deny his existence as well. He charged in, thrusting his spear forward. Dawn realized that he was going to get hit and simply closed his eyes in surrender. Just then, someone yanked him by the arm, saving his life within a hair's breadth. Surprised that the enemy missed, he turns and sees that he was saved by Master, who's telling him to get his act together. The young man is confused, knowing he shouldn't have enough energy to summon him at this time. They aren't given the opportunity to talk, as Sun Spear growled, indignant that a mere human dared to dodge and withstand his spear technique. Leaping in for another attack, he finds himself blocked by the old man's impenetrable barrier. Dawn flinched and fell back, earning another scolding from Master, who says he can't tell the difference between illusion and reality. Told off, he checks on it, and finally realizes that it's all in his head. Sun Spear's spirit invaded his mind while he was unconscious. Knowing he's completely outmatched at this point, the Elder tells him to step back for now. With a monster that once ruled the world, the old master's interest is piqued. Certainly, it possesses a spear technique leagues stronger than his own. However, this is only for their skill in the spear, but overall, they're far beneath him. To find such entertainment even after death reaffirms that his idea to choose Dawn was right. Focus and concentration brimmed as they got ready for battle. Sun Spear ran forward, still cursing humans and their determination to always stand in his path. They took his eyes for no reason and mercilessly stole his freedom from beneath him. Now he's set on making them all feel the same pain. As the two clashed, Dawn noticed that something felt oddly familiar. After a while of watching, he remembers the time they entered the pyramid and had his connection to the dungeon scanned. The dead, the spear, and the skeletons were all pointing to something. Looking closely, he recognizes the Sun Spear's movement, which is exactly like B2's. He gasps in surprise, and the realization finally strikes. With immeasurable resentment, he's to subdue the spirit to achieve the skeleton's true awakening. The necromancer called to Master, interrupting their battle. He's scolded, reminded that he's no match for the enemy. However, he's set on facing this challenge himself and begs the elder to allow him. With eyes blazing in rage, the Sun Spear gazed at Dawn, facing the human upon his request. Starting to panic, the necromancer is asked if he has a plan and shares that the spirit is his summon. Regarding it as his own child, he says he has to overcome it, not the elder. Master is surprised to hear this, not realizing it himself. From the moment he stepped into the dungeon, the stage was his to complete, not anyone else's. It is his mine, so he will bear whatever pain may come until the resentful spirit exhausts its anger, and until it collapses from fatigue. Watching him approach without hesitation, Sun Spear was again filled with hate for the vile and treacherous human. He can't believe that someone so lowly would even think that he can understand his woes. It's laughable. After all, he's filled with nothing but loathing and curses their kind altogether. Raising his spear, the spirit charged in to take his life. Dawn stood his ground, gritting his teeth as he took a hit directly to the chest. It nearly kills him, but the opponent pulls his weapon back and strikes countless more times, filling the room with dreadful noises. The torturous time was unending, and the human eventually fell to the ground, shuddering in pain. Fortunately, his pain-resistant skill kicked in, easing his suffering. That said, the ordeal was excruciating. Still, for his child, he was willing to take it all and stood right back up. Dawn summons a spear and smiles as he heals his injuries, telling his summon to pour all his resentment out. Sun Spear can't believe his ears, finding the idea to be outright unrealistic. There's no way he can possibly understand him, and it's all just a sign of his arrogance. This time, the necromancer, trained by the master, matches and parries all his attacks, barely stopping it from hitting his neck. In this world, no one was on his side because he was born a half-beast. From his birth, he learned that there's no way anyone would like a hybrid monster like himself. Sun Spear continued to release his anger. He shouldn't even have been brought into the world if people were just going to point knives at him. They took his eyes and tried to do the same to his hands and feet. He questions if the human can even fathom the horrible pain he went through. Shaking and kneeling on the ground, Dawn tries to understand, saying it must have been tough. Although still cold, the spirit's tone softened, saying some people took pity on him. However, in the end, they were all still the same, fearing and stabbing him in the back. Eventually, his emotions gradually died off, realizing that humans were falsehood and betrayal itself. Since they treated him like a monster, it was only right for him to treat them the same. Dawn is subject to another series of stabbing, questioning if it's the process to vent resentment. He can clearly feel its power, weakening with each strike. Sun Spear's emotions were also softening, and finally he asked the spirit how long he intended to be sad. If he continues to stay mired in pain, then he's the only one taking a loss. If he thinks about it, he should already know the reason for his suffering. Enraged, the hybrid scorns him for trying to define him as he pleases. Since it's reached this point, he admits to the source of his pain. However, it's already over, and his emotions have long withered, becoming permanent scars. Now there's nothing he can do to change it. As he said, there's no way to change and undo the past. All he wants to do is help him be reborn for his own good. Sun Spear froze, not expecting such words. Even after death, he continues to suffer despite killing all those who wronged him. Come to think of it, the pyramid is his tomb, where he buried himself after killing all those humans. After all that, he's now being told to live a new life. Sun Spear finds it difficult to believe that he's being told to live a new life. However, it's not about what's right or wrong now. The humans who ruined his life were not righteous, nor is he slaughtered countless for revenge. There are things he wanted to do, and things he couldn't do. Now he can enjoy them all. Hearing this, the man still finds it hard to believe, but Dawn is there to reassure him of the possibilities. The necromancer holds his spear. While it was just for a brief moment, he could clearly feel his past, including what hurt him, the emotions he felt, and the things he wanted. In those memories, it was clear as day that he simply longed to see the world. Sun Spear is reminded of his dreams. He was curious about the soft sand under his feet, and the camels endlessly roaming the hot desert. Finally, he remembers his curiosity about the world, which was there since he was a child. Regardless of the good and evil humans, that fact can't be denied. He's asked if that curiosity is not enough. Honestly speaking, Dawn could never fully empathize with his pain, but felt it for a brief moment. So he doesn't want to hastily console his feelings, and that isn't the right thing to do either. All he's saying is that the poor man can now be more honest with his desires. Regardless of the resentment and bitterness that remain, just think about the fact that he can finally go see the world. Sun Spear, still hesitant, asks if he can see the world with his help. As a cursed necromancer, he's a mage who can wield death itself. The world he lives in is completely different from his, but it's still one worth seeing. Extending his hand, the human invites him to join his side and serve as one of his men. The spirit pondered, contemplated, and eventually spoke, asking if he's different from the other humans. He is the absolute ruler of the ancient desert empire, the half-human, half-beast hybrid, unrivaled in his world, and the spear who embraced the lofty sun. Given his strength, he does not serve just anyone, especially a human at that. Staring him down, he asks if he's worthy to be his master. With this, a hidden quest activated, and the winning condition for the resentment of the Sun Spear is to prove that he's the true master. Since it can't be helped, he just smiles in acceptance. Again summoning his weapon, Dawn asks how to prove himself. It's much simpler than expected, and he's told to endure the spirit's attacks and endure the power of the sun, not just a remnant of resentment. Without missing a beat, the necromancer tells him to come and give it his best shot. With this, Sun Spear charged in, unfurling his wings and lunging forward with all his power. The human stood his ground, not moving from his spot, and parried the strike on his own. As the blades clashed, a bright flash of light blinded them, and Dawn found himself back in the desert. The first thing he hears is Master, who sounds surprisingly proud as he commended his disciple. He successfully resolved the spirit's resentment, and with it upgraded his pain resistance skill. What mattered wasn't his ability. Knowing this, he would gladly take him on countless times. Lowering his weapon, Sun Spear acknowledged him as one undeniably different from the others. Saying he wanted to be reborn, he fell to his knees, accepting the human as his new master, and recognized him as his lord. The hidden condition has been fulfilled, and he's cleared the linked quest, leaving him with precious rewards to reap. Meanwhile, there was a banquet in a lavish venue, and highly influential people socialized with each other. Among them was Soyu, who was obviously sick of the tedious gatherings. She's attending the event due to her brother's request, but it's a waste of time. It could have been a nice opportunity to converse with the top-ranking hunters. However, compared to the old master, everyone there is but a mere infant. Since she's been there long enough, she intends to finish quickly and leave. Just then, someone called her name from behind. A blond man stood, saying he's been looking for her, and that it's been far too long. He smiles, saying she must remember him. The man recalls the rancor they befriended in America, and says he's still dying to see Soyu. He asks her if he should arrange a meeting, even offering some limited edition whiskey. Nodding dismissively, she doesn't even spare a few words. Soon after, she looks at the clock and decides to leave for the night, saying she has another appointment. Ignoring his calls, she turns away, ending the conversation and taking her leave. Seeing her back firmly turned, he silently curses her, insulted that she's acting all high and mighty, just because she's a top ranker. He wonders if the recent rumors are true, and if she really is in a relationship. Still bitter, he decides to check it out himself. Back in the forest, Dawn reappeared from the portal, exhausted from the earlier encounter with Sun Spear. He falls to the ground, thinking he was about to die in the dungeon. Facing up, he sees that the sun has not even set. The Dark Empress said she'll be gone for 6 hours, so she should come back soon. His skeletons all adjust accordingly, and their stats increase evenly across the board, putting them all at level 8 and 9. B2 seems particularly stronger, and is now more special than the others, with the memories of the Sun Spear integrated into his body. With the Divine Spirit, all his stats are increased by 10. All 3 skills used on him are now listed under his usable abilities. Solar Strike, which attacks with blinding light and successive strikes. Raging Desert, which is the sandstorm-like wide attack. And Soul Flare, the temporary boost in movement and attack speed. Recalling everything, they are all undeniably powerful moves. Moving on, he should stop calling his spearman B2 and names him Sunny, as Sun Spear sounds too cold. That's not the end of it, as he still has to receive his dungeon clear rewards. Since clearing a stage with an immeasurable rating is a remarkable feat, the rewards will also be substantial. As such, he's acquired the S-rank Golden Random Box. As an E-ranker, he's never acquired any decent items, but he now has an S-rank item. He wastes no time and opens the chest right away. A golden flash of light shot up, and the silhouette of a staff appeared. The S-rank item fell lightly to his palms. It's a magical staff, imbued with the power of a legendary red dragon carrying huge effects. It looks unimpressive for a high-ranking item, but it's the type of weapon that gets stronger based on the wielder's powers. Wondering how much it would sell for in the market, he heads to the Hunter's app and asks for an appraisal on the discussion board. A bunch of comments call it a scam, as it's posted by an E-ranker. Insulted, he decides to take a photo for proof and posts it again. Everyone is shocked that it's true, and an entire discussion sparks, flooding the post with comments. In no time, Dawn suddenly finds his item at the top of the trending posts list. To make things worse, people are writing articles about it. Fortunately, the Hunter board would never disclose personal information, so his identity should be safe for now. Speaking too soon, he gets a flood of direct messages as well. He deletes the post and gives up on selling, not ready to attract attention to himself yet. Finally, he realizes that he can use the item himself. Since his energy has been replenished, he decides to check it out and summons B5 into the world. Nonchalantly handing the new staff over, he calls it a gift to the skeleton. The mage stares at it for a while, taking a moment before realizing the power of the item in his hand. Taking the staff without hesitation, B5 waved it around in joy. He officially equips the item, and suddenly brims with power. Dawn is surprised, and Necromancer summons can't typically equip items. Since it's the first S-rank item he's ever gotten, he thinks deeply about what to do, and considers giving it to his mage servant. As soon as he thinks about selling the time, the skeleton grips the staff tight, now unwilling to give it back. It's undeniably an expensive item, so he tries to take it away. However, B5 is surprisingly stubborn and shook his head in rejection. The Necromancer sighs in resignation and officially gives it to the skeleton, thinking he can at least use it. This might be the right choice, as one day he might also awaken like Sunny did. Now that he's checked the achievement reward, he moves on to the dungeon completion reward. He receives an A-rank item, called the Roots of Racial Conflict, which has a connection to his profession. A sizable piece of wood appeared in the air, and according to the description, it's another medium that leads to a linked quest. He recalls Soyu's words, saying mediums are also a fortuitous opportunity, which grants a series of increasingly valuable quests and rare rewards to match their difficulty, eventually reaching S rank and above. This has been confirmed for every medium, and it's possible that this new dungeon involves his other skeletons, just like Sunny. He muses on the idea of all 10 skeletons being supreme beings of their own worlds. However, this should normally be too overpowered to happen, but he also feels as if the mysterious system is somehow favoring him. Having already grown so much, he waves it off, not wanting to overcomplicate things. His goal is to become a top ranker, so even if it is too overpowered, then he'll just use the system for his benefit. Skeletons, known as boneheads, are undead creatures with nothing left, except for their bones. Now the undead that supposedly only has nothing but its skeletal body was speaking right in front of Dawn, and calling him Lord. With the spirit of Sun Spear in B2, the skeleton looked up at the night sky, finally seeing after years of blindness. While it's a bizarre sight, the master tries to rationalize, saying it's understandable in a way. Meanwhile, Soyu has finally arrived, and was equally intrigued by what she came across. To see a talking skeleton, even other necromancers would be astonished. Offended, he corrects the way she's addressing his precious subordinate, and tells her to address him as Sunny. Moving on, he asks if it's truly okay for her to be there during that time. She assures him that there's no problem, as she's only protecting him until he gets stronger. To clarify this, she means when he reaches A rank. Once he reaches that level, he should be able to protect himself and even join a major guild. Moreover, it shouldn't take too long given his current rate of growth. He sheepishly rejects the possibility, saying he's still in the D rank after all. Even she finds it unbelievable that she first met him as a porter, and all he had were 5 normal skeletons. Now Sunny alone is nearly a B ranker, and the necromancer is improving every day. Even Dawn has to admit that his progress has been relatively rapid, but if another being that ruled his world was to revive through his skeletons, then they'd definitely grow stronger. Asking the former Sun Spear, he allows him to train on his own as an expert of his craft. It's still an awkward and frail body, but Sunny will soon regain his original strength. With this, he's ordered to train on his own, and he does so masterfully. While watching, the necromancer wonders when his own rank will rise. He received a medium, usable only by rank and above, so there should be a way for him to level up. As such, his next goal is to raise his own hunter rank. Soon after, the two reach Dawn's home, where a pile of boxes stood tall. Soyu says there's no need to do such things, but he says he can't have her sleeping on the rooftop. He clarifies that he has no intention of crossing the line, and that she just has to place her sleeping bag on the floor, just like yesterday. As accommodating as he is, he still can't surrender his mattress to the visitor. After all, comfortable sleep is essential. Again told that there's no need, he insists that it is only necessary. He's still a weakling in the hunter world, and if Parang found that she was mistreated in any way, there's no saying what might happen to him. She clarifies and says she means the boxes, which acted as a barrier between them. Surprised by her words, Dawn asks Soyu to repeat herself. With a simple smile, she says she could easily take his head out in an instant without a wall of boxes between them. A chill ran down his spine. All she meant was that such things are pointless in this situation. He questions what's wrong with her and why she's always thinking about killing. Just then, someone banged on the door hard. They both looked up, surprised as a voice urgently called out, continuing the knocking. Dawn doesn't know anyone who would come to his place this late at night. Feeling safe with Soyu, he heads out to open the door. Seeing a stranger there, he's left confused. She looked up at him, visibly worried and in distress. Upon confirming his identity, she suddenly asks him to save her brother. Things turn from confusing to downright disturbing as he's handed a piece of paper which was left in her home. Reading through it, his face grew pale and dim. A photo of his friend, Junso, was taped there, showing him tied up and taken hostage. To save him, Don was supposed to show up at the river that very night. To make things worse, he's told to come alone, warned that the hostage will die should anyone else show up. This is obviously the work of the shadow lurkers, as no one else would do such a thing. Even Soyu didn't expect them to do things so blatantly. As she speaks, the girl gasps, realizing that the Dark Empress was there. Paying her no mind, the ranker says it's only natural to resort to lowly tactics, since she's always with him. What's more, she just received a text saying their reserve team was attacked in the dungeon, and that her presence would be a huge help. Given how Hellhound himself is attacking, it must all tie together, with both parties being targeted. She grits her teeth, left in a conundrum. Soye must be worried, as her guild has just been attacked, but she's still there because of their agreement. Saying there's no choice, he tells the Dark Empress to head to Paran. She refuses, arguing that her brother, ranked 58th in the world, is there, and that he isn't weak enough to be taken down by something like the Shadow Lurkers. On the other hand, the Necromancer is all alone, and will be put at most risk if she leaves him. He agrees with her, but their priority would be to save the kidnapped person. Unfortunately, they're asking for him to come alone, so having her there won't help. It's obviously a trap, and they're both aware of this. At least Hellhound isn't there, and he still has Master and Sunny with him. He recalls something she once told him. Life is a journey that starts and ends with connections. Someone connected and important to him is in trouble because of his actions. As such, he can't just sit back and watch, and he doesn't want to be a cowardly hunter either. After all, he wants to give kindness back just as much as he gets. Given his determination, she just sighs in resignation. She'll handle things at Parang fast and then quickly come to join him. Before this, she reminds him of how she once mentioned that she introduced him to several people. Due to the situation, this might happen sooner than expected. Suddenly, the Dark Empress disappeared from where she was. Don still didn't understand what she meant, but had to start moving as well. He heads to the river as instructed. There, Junso was on the floor, still all tied up and struggling to get free. The Shadow Lurkers were also there, waiting for their target to arrive. There were just 5 minutes left. Finally, Don stepped in with his skeleton. Taking note of his presence, they lifted the hostage up and threw him to the ground. He winced and begged, muffled cries coming out of the mouth gag. The assassin leader chuckled, finding him brave for actually coming to meet them alone. The Lurkers have 3 A-rank assassins at the front, and probably a few B-rankers spread throughout the island. The reason they called him there is obvious, and there was not much need for small talk. Don plays dumb, saying he obviously came there, just because he was told to, and that they would spare the hostage if he came. They scowl at him, who seems to be toying with them. Annoyed, he puts a dagger near Junso's neck, and tells him to explain in detail what the dungeon reward was. Wounding the hostage's flesh, he threatens to kill him should the hunter refuse to cooperate. The situation grows nerve-wracking, especially since he only has 5 D-rank skeletons. However, there's nothing much to do, as the reward isn't something he can just give away. He calms everyone down, promising to give them a full explanation. This is exactly what he must do if he wishes to save his friend. The Necromancer bows his head, saying he's just glad to be alive. Proceeding, he shares that the reward was quite simple, and that he basically has a master to teach him. The leader recalls Jugo's words about an old man who even Soyu couldn't beat. To be precise, the elder utterly destroyed the Dark Empress, regardless of how many times she tried. He's already heard it once, but it's surprising to know that such a person exists. They ask to see the master, and if he's only visible to him, then it'd be useless to their group. Determined to stay alive, Don lies and says he has a special method to make him visible. Not only that, he can share him with all of them. The others are surprised to hear that there's a possibility of being taught personally. The Necromancer assures them of this, adding that it's also the reason why the Empress is by his side. They want him to do it and pass the teacher to them right away. It should be possible, but he'll need about 30 minutes to prepare the method. While he was on his way to the river, he received a message on his phone, telling him not to fight alone. Soyo talked about introducing him to someone, and while it's a bit early, they should answer her call. All he has to do is hold out for 30 minutes on his own. Seeing that text, he began thinking of ways to stall for time. He points at the group, asking who he should start with. As hesitation spread across the assassins, the ball was put into play. The ball of greed, whether true or false, they would not know, and to catch it or not is their choice. An impatient foot tapped on the ground. Watching Don sit and mumble for over 30 minutes, they question if he was being truthful. Now that he thinks about it, the Necromancer similarly stalled for time during their last encounter. It was a different encounter, but his methods were the same, so he must have some sort of plot ready. They angrily called out, demanding to know how long it's going to take, and saying their patience has limits. Don apologizes, even saying that more interruptions might make him start over. Going to the next stage, he asks if they're afraid, and deviously tells them to back out while they can. They're indignant, feeling like he must be out of his mind. The leader raises his blade and puts it right on Junso's neck, driving a deeper wound in. The necromancer questions what they're doing, now frowning. He's reminded of his time limit of 30 minutes. Since he broke his promise first, they're taking the hostage's life. He's told not to blame others, as he only brought this on himself. The assassin was about to kill Junso when a spear suddenly went flying, driving itself deep into the ground. Taking immediate caution, he distanced himself from the others, not knowing who could have sent the attack. Nearby, he sees Sunny and doubts how a mere skeleton could make an attack of such caliber. Don wanted to buy a bit more time, and it's a pity that he can't. That said, he finds it hilarious that they actually believed and waited for him for 30 minutes. Realizing they've been duped, they curse the necromancer. Power surged throughout the man's body, enraged over being mocked and insulted. It's foolish of him to think that he can overcome the situation with a single skeleton by his side. With this, the shadow lurkers moved to kill the hostage and capture the sly target. They charged in, wanting to make him pay for deceiving them. Sunny also stepped forward, taking the lead and facing them head-on. With him in the front lines, Dawn is free to summon the remaining skeletons and order them to take all the enemies out.